What's up, everybody? Welcome to Sixers Postgame Live. The Sixers got the L tonight, 134 to 122, breaking down our reaction, top takeaways, player of the game, more. Joining us, he is Sean_Bernard1 on X. What's up, Sean?
Yeah, not the highest of spirits, I would say, to be joining you fellas. That it's been a nice hot streak of Sixers basketball, and I felt like this was one to knock us right back down to earth. So excited to get into some of the bigger picture stuff here, but definitely a frustrating game overall.
Tough game outside of the kids fighting back in the fourth quarter, but he is back. Tiago at TiagoPHL on X. What's good, Tiago?
What's going on, everybody? It's good to be back on the day where the game after Embiid dropping 70 points, we get to watch the Pacers drop 70 points and a half. So just keeping that trend going for another game. So yeah, but excited to talk about Sixers once again.
Absolutely. Here is the box score. Guys, if you're watching this live, please be sure to comment your thoughts on this one. You know, we are just mere weeks away from the NBA trade deadline. We could go player to player in our takes from this game, but I feel like to start our breakdown of this, it's more of a bigger picture take, and that is like, do the Sixers need to make a move? Because when you see Tyrese Maxey out there shooting 1 for 8 from the floor, when you see him really struggling to be that number 2 at times this season, I'll throw it to you, Tiago. Does Daryl Morey need to be cooking in the lab? Do the Sixers need to make a move because they need a ball handler? They need shooting. What do they do?
Daryl Morey should have had been in the lab a long time ago, man, because I'm sure you guys have been keeping up with the news. The Knicks got OG Anunoby. The Heat just traded for Terry Rozier. So teams are making moves as is, and players are becoming less available in the open market. Less supply, high demand, price goes up. Just the way this thing works. So yeah, I expect Morey to be highly active in this trade deadline for a variety of reasons, starting first of all from the sheer fact that Embiid is having an all-time season. He's having a historic season. If you look at it historically, seasons like Embiid tend to end in championships. And if I was to ask you guys questions today, if the Sixers were to play the Knicks or the Pacers in the first round of playoffs, what would be your level of confidence they could win those series outright? Would it be like 50%, 75%, less than 50%? Because for you to say 50%, right, with Embiid and Maxey on the team would show how far off they are from a championship contender, even though their winning record indicates that they are one of the best teams in the NBA. So I think games like now, even though both teams are shorthanded, now granted, the Pacers are also missing Therese Halliburton, which is an MVP level candidate. So it goes both ways. But yeah, I think when you break down the team as a whole, Maxey, the supporting cast, I think there's a lot there to discuss from the standpoint of what they need going into the trade deadline.
Yeah, the Pacers scare me, man. I'm not going to lie.
They shouldn't, Chris, because you have Joel Embiid. I mean, you have Tyrese Maxey. So why are we sitting here talking about being scared for the Pacers and the Knicks, who beat the Nuggets by 100 points today? So they got to get moving, man. They got to get moving. Just the way that this cookie's crumbling this year.
Yeah. They give me – this Pacers team gives me vibes of that Atlanta Hawks 2021 team. Like, they're kind of good. I don't want any pieces of them. But like you said, Tiago, you know, the East is really deep this year. You mentioned OG. You know, the Bucks went all in. The Celtics went all in. The Knicks look good. They're blowing out the Nuggets. Sean, what's your take?
Yeah, I mean, to answer Tiago's question directly, like I still think the Sixers will not sweep any of these teams that we're mentioning, but I'm very confident that they still beat them. That I'd probably put it at 80%, and maybe I'm a little overly optimistic there. I think the Pacers are as bad as they could possibly match up with a team, just because obviously with Joel Embiid, he's more of a half-court player, a big man, and the Pacers want to run and gun with everybody, and we saw that on full display tonight. The Pacers also, to me, are a team that, like, on any one-night basis can catch you, like was the case tonight. The Sixers never had a lead. The Pacers jumped out to that immediately and never let their foot off the throat. I do think over a 7-game series that there are adjustments that can make and being more prepared for that, but they're definitely a scary team. And when you look at the East as a whole, that it is kind of that top end of the Celtics, Bucks, and Sixers, who I think are all in like the fringe or at least legitimate championship or at least fringe legitimate championship contenders. Then you look below that, and that is the teams like the Heat, the Knicks, and the Pacers. And don't forget about the Cavs, who I would not write off either, who have been playing really good ball as well right now. So it's a deep East, and none of those teams are going to be ones that roll over. I don't think it's any surprise that this team needs to make a move. I think we all kind of expected that. That was kind of the point of the Harden trade, was to kick the can down the line, have those draft picks and attack. But Daryl Morey has to attack. You can't allow this to slip by and not make a move. That even with as great as the vibes are, as great as the chemistry on the team, it's very clear that they need another guy. And I totally agree with the Embiid point that you cannot afford to waste years like this. You don't know how many you're getting. And frankly, I can't imagine it gets any better than this, because this is historic. This is unbelievable. And you have to do everything possible to give that man and this team a chance in the postseason.
Sean, you know what creates even better vibes? Winning a championship. Yeah. So you can fabricate all the vibes you want. That's great. That's cute. But I'll take winning championships, man. Those are the best vibes.
Yeah. I'm with you.
Some quick comments, and then we're just going to get to what we saw in this one. Barry says, not enough depth. The defense was lacking without Melton and Rocco. Pat Bev didn't have it tonight, man. He absolutely didn't have it.
Kelly Oubre, man.
Kelly Oubre. I mean, Ricky Council Jr. looked like 3 times a player as Kelly Oubre tonight, and that's saying something. Barry says the Sixers were without 6 players. Pacers were also out without Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah, and they equate half of Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah. Pacers were rotating guys like on a hockey team. And Clinton with the comment of the night, at least we don't have to worry about the Milwaukee Bucks.
Shout out Doc Rivers.
Let's get into this. Here is the shot chart for the Indiana Pacers. Absolutely carved up the Sixers in the paint. 30 out of 40 at the rim. Nearly 43% from 3. 68 points inside the paint tonight. Man, like, they got run out of the gym, man. They got straight from the jump. The Sixers they looked like they were on the back-to-back. They just looked sluggish. They couldn't hit shots. Tyrese Maxey really struggled in this one. It's kind of how it goes sometimes. But, Sean, just thoughts on the defense especially.
Yeah, I thought there was a little bit of shooting variance on the Pacers end, that they felt like they were hitting some crazy shots in the first half, specifically Obi Toppin hitting one from like behind the net that stood out to me in a couple moments like that. So I think some of it was that, but definitely the defense looked a little disorganized, and that they weren't the interesting part about a lot of Nurse's defensive systems is like there's so much just blitzing, rotating, and collapsing, trying to bring all these doubles and rotating around, that when it's all clicking, it looks phenomenal. But when it's a little off, there's some really vulnerable areas of it. I thought we saw that on display today. This Pacers team, they play really cohesive basketball, that they spin the ball around. They know where they're going. It's constant movement. They're pushing the pace constantly. They don't let a defense get set. So I do think this is like a particularly bad matchup for not just the Sixers, but really any opposing defense. But it was disappointing that they weren't ever able to really assert themselves. And I even like the concept of going small, starting Pat Bev, and that being the idea there. I thought they got a little bit of a burst when they brought in the athletic guys in the second unit. Dan House, somehow I'm up here praising that. I was actually really impressed with what he brought. He's still chaos on the floor 24/7, but the pop that he brings, the energy that he brings, I thought was necessary tonight. He's playing like he wants a part of that rotation, which I like to see. And I thought on a night like tonight, he definitely made his impact felt. But the bottom line was that it felt like they were off from start to finish with a lot of those rotations, created a bunch of vulnerable looks, and Sixers going 2 of 11 from 3 in the first half essentially sinks things.
Yeah. What about you, Tiago?
Yeah, I think Sean touches on an interesting point, which is, right, Indiana is a team that likes to move. They move into open spots. They run. They're in constant motion. And it's undeniable that Sixers struggle with teams that play this style of play. Even on the game against San Antonio, what they beat the Spurs by 500 points, you could see that they were struggling to defend guys like Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, even Wemby. Sometimes it was flowing off the ball. Just sheer quickness, off the ball IQ. The Sixers are not fast in their forward position. So they struggle to track guys up and down the court through screen. So when you start projecting about what it looks like in the playoffs, a team that does a lot of motion is a team like the Heat, who just got a whole lot better and faster with Terry Rozier. So you start thinking about tracking Tyler Hero, tracking Duncan Robinson off screens, and now they can play big with Jimmy Butler. You can play fast with Terry Rozier. These are the kind of games that, even though, you're shorthanded, yes, it's probably not the best measuring stick, but you see holes on the roster that great teams can exploit, and they can really attack the Sixers defensively. And I think that when you look at, as a whole, when they've struggled the most defensively are against teams that will kind of just move around and make things happen in space. They have enough bodies, I think, they can potentially defend in isolation, but it's the movement that really creates issues for the Sixers, beyond the fact that they turn the ball over, create a ton of fast break opportunities. But that's a whole different issue. So I think it speaks to what they potentially may need at the deadline from a defensive standpoint, if they're unwilling to play more of their young guys from the bench, but they don't seem interested in doing this year either. So
yeah. Can we get Obi? Probably not.
The Obi Toppin stuff's weird though. Like, flashback to the beginning of the season, he was starting on that Pacers team and playing really well. Like, during that in-season tournament run, he was their starting power forward, and like, I thought, playing at a very high level. But this is also kind of the second team that he seems to have fallen out of favor with the coach or the rotations, with the Knicks and the Pacers both looking at him like that. Purely from a talent standpoint and a skill set standpoint, I like Obi Toppin quite a bit. I haven't really been able to put my finger on why that keeps continuing to be the case, and specifically on this Pacers team, which seems to feed you all of his strengths.
Yeah, I would love him on the Sixers.
Absolutely.
He would be fantastic on the team, but yeah.
Pacers seem to not want to play him. Obi is B-ball Paul with a little more control. How about Allah saying, "Get the ball to the point guard"?
Yeah,
when
get it to a ball handler.
You gotta let B-ball cook, man. Come on, he touches the ball 4 times a game. You gotta let him do his thing.
Prince says this game was another example why Murray would be a great pickup. Tiago, who's your target for the Sixers?
So here's where, and I'm finishing up an article on this. I've done some research, right? The Sixers are overall a very good offense, top 4, top 5 in the NBA. Historically, it's one of the best offenses in league history. But here's the thing. The league as a whole this year offensively has taken a step up. And while the Sixers are very top of that, when you look at their efficiency, and I'm talking specifically at effective field goal percentage, they're like 17th. So what does that mean? That means they're getting a lot of their offense through free throws, through offensive rebounds. But when it comes to shooting, when it comes to shot creation, they're at the near average to bottom average in the NBA. And when you look at historically teams that win NBA titles over the last 15 years, they're in the top 3, top 4 of effective field goal percentage. So when you talk about what the Sixers need coming into the deadline, you need guys who can potentialize what this offense looks around Joel Embiid. And to me specifically, are you guys going to play in space? You're going to shoot in space. We're also going to create for Maxey, because Maxey's a great off-the-ball player in general, even though he's struggling. And he has been, generally, if you look at it since Christmas, he has been a below average on-the-ball player by his position, which is not great, right? You're talking about guys potentially being an all-star, a second guy on a championship level team. You can't have that guy performing at below level standards for your position. So there are number of names that I'm interested in. I talked about potentially Malcolm Brogdon being one of those guys. He has the highest effective catch and shoot percentage in the NBA today at near 80%. I mean, that's massive, right? And he can also play as a point guard. He can play off the ball. He's one. There's a number that there's Bojan Bogdanovic. That's another name that I'm interested in. So there's a list of names that I'm interested in, but the bottom line is you got to potentialize the space and the offense around Joel, right? You're not going to have a guy taking 30 pull-up shots in this offense. So what does it look like when Joel passes the ball? Those are the guys that I'm interested in on this team at the trade deadline. So,
absolutely love Malcolm Brogdon. Would you give up a first-round pick for him?
Absolutely, 100%, 100%.
Yeah, he's had some big games this year. What about you, Sean?
Yeah, I like Brogdon. I would not be upset by Brogdon. I think my mindset is I think that there has to be 2 players coming in here.
Yep.
That one has to be an additional ball handler and one has to be some sort of wing/shooter. That I think they need a guy that is a 3-point volume guy, whether that be a Bojan Bogdanovic, a Bogdan Bogdanovic, a Buddy Hield, a player like that, preferably one with a little bit more defensive slack. I probably look in Bojan's direction for that specifically. Not that he's some shutdown defender, but he at least puts up a fight more than the other two, I would say. And then the other side of things, I think that they need a ball handler, that there's just too much on Tyrese Maxey's shoulders right now. And that's not Maxey's fault. That like he's being asked to do so much, and to ask him to be a secondary option who has to create as the primary playmaker and a 25 plus point per game score is a lot for this guy. So I've fully talked myself into DeJounte Murray, that I think you take the best areas of DeJounte Murray's game from both in San Antonio and in Atlanta, and that is pretty much the player that the Sixers need. I'm also a little bit more worried about the rebounding side of things than I think most people. That when you look at DeJounte's number back in San Antonio, he had over a 20% rebound rate. That he was averaging over 8 rebounds per game for a period of time. So if you can bring that player, and he also was known for his defense at that point in time, I do believe in Nick Nurse to bring that out in him more. I think Atlanta, like both scheme-wise and just kind of effort-wise, stylistically, there's not as much foot on the gas defensively, and I think DeJounte has kind of sunk into some bad habits that way. And he's a guy that, I mean, he hit 2 game winners in back-to-back games last week. Like, he has self-creation ability. He has playmaking ability that would allow Maxey to play off ball. To me, I can see a trio of Murray, Maxey, and Embiid being legit in the playoffs. Again, I think it is 2 players. I think it's a ball handler, and I think it's a wing.
I agree. Getting Maxey off ball, getting him easier shots, man.
Yeah.
Would be just huge for him just moving forward. Barry says players you are talking about shouldn't require a lot of assets. Anybody else have any other takes before we go into player of the game?
Yeah, they don't require assets, but you need your general manager to act. I mean, I know he said like players become more available close to the deadline, and he's not wrong there, but you got to act, man. Like the price is only going to keep going up as players become less available in the market. So I just think that there's got to be an urgency this year, right? When you hear names like Tyus Jones or a backup big in the buyout market, that doesn't inspire urgency to me. I mean, that looks like a kind of guy who's looking at this roster, but like, we're good. We just got to patch some little things here and there, or we're going to ready to take on the Heat or the Bucks or the Celtics. That is not actually the truth. I mean, this team foundationally needs help when you watch them play. It's basically Embiid bailing them out, or you get games like tonight where they're not even in it. So I think there needs to be urgency around getting starting level players on this team with size, like Sean said, that can create, that can shoot, starting level players. Not your backup point guard from the Washington Wizards. Starting level players that are going to be connectors, they're going to be creators, they're going to be shooters, defenders. So yeah, I just think that he's got to have an urgency that I don't think he's ever had as a Sixer to this point, quite frankly. So we'll see.
You take Joel Embiid off this team, and this is like a 25-win team. Like that again, that's part of what makes him the MVP. What part of makes him one of the best players across the entire league, and one of the best seasons that we've seen ever in basketball. But when you look beyond that, and frankly, like if history is going to tell us anything, there's a decent chance that they have to survive at least a game or two without Joel come playoff time. That you got to at least give yourself a fighting chance. So I do think like it is getting a guy. It's not like these plug and play role players. You need a dude that can help carry you a little bit on both sides of the floor, and particularly offensively, I feel.
But what's your gut vibe right now? Like my gut vibe is he's got the plan for this offseason. Like he wants to clear the books, and that's where his mind is at. You saw the contract for Brogdon. He's under the books for next year.
And I'm not necessarily thinking you're wrong here. I just wholeheartedly disagree with the cap space plan. Like,
okay,
big time players don't like leave in free agency anymore. Like it just doesn't happen. I do think like the Zach LaVine, like I think he's out on Zach LaVine because of that contract, and there are players like that. For me, Murray is on a long-term deal, but it's way more manageable. That we're talking in the 20 millions, not in the 40 millions like Zach LaVine. And Murray's a guy that's going to age fine into that less injury history, a guy that I think like if things go south, you can get off that in the past. So for me, like it's worth taking on one of these monstrous deals to give yourself a chance to legitimately compete this year. So while I think that's kind of his public stance and that's everything he said, I think Morey has to have a hard look at himself in the mirror and say like I need to do everything possible to win this year. I might not have a better chance at building a championship contender than this particular team. So if that means paying more long-term money, that's what I have to sign up to do.
Yep. All right.
Yeah, I don't see downturning having DeJounte Murray's contract on your squad, even though, you're eating up into cap space next year. I mean, you're talking about a kid who's 27, 28, something like that.
I think 27.
He's at or near all-star level. I'm not saying he's ever going to be an all-star level player. He hasn't made an All-Star team yet, right, Sean?
Made one.
He made one. Okay, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
He did make one. I was like, just remember that he did make one. Anyways, he's at that fringe All-Star level, and that's basically where his ceiling is at, in my opinion. I don't think he's ever going to take another leap beyond that. And guess what, man? That's fine.
Yeah,
I think that works for the Sixers. Well, that could potentially work for the Sixers, and that's a tradable asset in the future, unless he gets injured or something like that. So I don't see much of downturn in Murray's contract at all, even though, yes, like he is making a lot of money.
There it is right there. Next 2-3 years, 24, 26, 26, then a player option in 2028 and unrestricted free agent 2028. Okay. All right. Want to roll 2 players of the game? I mean,
let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. Here we go. Players of the game for the Sixers. This one's going to be difficult. I'm going to go first. I'm going to go Ricky Council Jr. Like this game was pretty much in the mud, quarters 1 through 3, and I thought Ricky Council Jr. showed quite a bit in that fourth quarter. I think maybe it has to do with how bad Kelly Oubre looked in this one. Yeah. But Ricky Council Jr. had some solid minutes in the fourth quarter. 12 minutes, 11 points, a steal. What about you, Sean? Who's your player of the game?
Yeah, that would have been my first choice as well. And I'm very much an impartial guy to Terquavion Smith. Can't quite throw him on the list today after 2 points and 0 for 6, 0 for 4, including several air balls there. So can't give it to my guy Turk today. Also really considered giving it to Furkan just purely for that behind the back pass, which is tremendous. But I think I got to give the nod to Daniel House Jr. And not a guy that I've been particularly high on really ever, but Dan House brought it tonight, brought some energy, and I thought he gave this team more life than anyone else on the floor. I do think that he's taking this seriously and wants to be in this rotation. He's fighting and scrapping to get in, so I give him credit for that. And I do think he made an impact tonight. So Daniel House Jr., my player of the game.
Yeah, his play has been up, man.
Yeah.
That block he had on McConnell was dirty, man. That was legit. All right, Tiago. I went Ricky Council Jr., the Council of Ricks, Sean went Daniel House. Who's your player of the game?
When everything goes wrong, you just pick Nick Batum. That's basically my default for everything. I'll be honest. I don't understand why they can't get him more catch and shoot looks in the game. He's one of the best spot up shooters in the league this year. His spot up numbers are historically great this year. His usage rate is at 8%. Pat Beverly's usage rate is 15%. I don't understand that. He's got to get more looks in space, in my opinion, because he's a reliable shooter. And I'll give a shout out to Furk, man, because I think, quite frankly, when he made that behind the back pass down 80 points, I was like, you go Furk, you do you, man. So yeah,
God bless him, man.
Furk and Batum back to back.
And quick thought on Batum. I'm seeing a little bit too much Nico Batum in the dunker spot. That let him play make from the perimeter, let him catch and shoot threes, let Kelly Oubre do the dirty work in the dunker spot. That I actually like Kelly in that spot. I like the way that he competes for rebounds, like the way that he makes those backdoor cuts. Let Batum play a little bit of the prettier decision where he can be a catch and shoot guy and make entry passes to Joel. So I'm seeing the past couple games Batum sneak into the dunker spot a little bit too much for my liking.
Yeah, although to that, I agree with you wholeheartedly. He needs to be out in space more, but he's key in those tip backs.
Yeah,
off the misses. Sure. He's done like 3 or 4 of those a game, just generating a second possession. The Sixers don't really have another power forward that can do that. Tobias is never going to do that in his life. So Batum is next in line for this. So.
Barry has the question of the night: if Tobias Harris keeps playing at this level, do you attempt to bring him back, and if so, at what price? And did the Sixers miss his defense tonight?
What? All right, maybe the score is 127 instead of 135. What are we doing?
I genuinely have no clue what his market value is going to be. I kind of sense in that like $15 to $20 million range. I think there's a more legitimate chance than people give it credit that Tobias Harris is back on like a 3-year, $45 million deal or something like that. I wouldn't love it. I understand it. He's okay. He's not going to kill you, but I'm just over the Tobias Harris experience, to be perfectly honest. That I've watched this man play basketball for far too long, it feels like at this point. And the issue that I constantly circle back to with Toby specifically is what is the defining skill that you need him on the court for? I still struggle to find what that one thing is. And I'd rather attack guys like Nico Batum and like even a Kelly Oubre on a bad night, which you at least know there are the specific things that they're going to bring to help a team. Tobias is just such a jack of all trades, master of none in my mind, but he will get paid by somebody.
Chris, I'll take Tobias on one condition.
No,
it's a
don't do
$5
it.
million contract.
Okay.
And you sign an agreement that you will not allow the Sixers to promote you for the All-Star game. And there will be no pregame footage of your dancing right before you go 2 for 10 and the Sixers lose by 5. So if he does those two things, I will take Tobias back in a heartbeat.
The All-Star stuff is so egregious, man.
Yeah.
Like
Crazy.
It's
So crazy.
it's like beyond like next level.
They absolutely cannot bring him back. They have to move on. Sixers have been playing Tobias on the other team's scores. Where do we go from here? Let's just do final thoughts, wrap this thing up. Sean, you're up, man.
Yeah, I think we're a little more down in the dumps than we probably should be.
I'm down, man.
It's been a good stretch of Sixers basketball overall. That coming off, what was it, 6 consecutive wins entering this one, back to backs, that 4 straight wins with that and that one. So overall, that they have been good this year. This is a bad night, a down night for sure, and they are beat up. They are hurt. That I miss Robert Covington more than I think people acknowledge too, and DeAnthony Melton. That I think both those guys are impact players, and Covington specifically, I would like to get a longer look at. That I think he deserves to be in this playoff rotation. And I hope that he gets healthy because it sounds like that knee issue is real deal. But hopefully Joel Embiid's knee is okay and he's able to suit up Saturday. We're back in good spirits and that we do get the MVP showdown. It was good chopping it up after this one to be back here. You guys can follow me on Twitter at Sean_Bernard1. Check me out on PickSwap Media, Sixers Digest, and Fox Sports The Gambler. We'll be on air with Mark Henry Jr. 11-1 on the across the social apps and YouTube, the radio, everywhere else you got to listen. So make sure to tune in for that. And yeah, got another video on Sixers Digest talking a little bit about Kyle Lowry and some other names to kind of that are whispering around the Sixers world right now.
Awesome, man. He is the best of the best. Go give him a follow on X at Sean_Bernard1. Tiago, final thoughts on this one?
Yeah, final thoughts. The Sixers have the Nuggets on Saturday. That's a massive, massive game. You get Warriors, you get Utah, you get the Dallas, then you get the Warriors again. All this before the trade deadline. What better way to really gauge what you are as a team, assuming that Joel plays most, if not all of these games. So I think the Sixers are in a great position to really find out who they are. And if, quite frankly, if they performing at this level, then the trade deadline will definitely be a time for them to act more than ever. So, but yeah, outside of that, you can find me on Edge of Philly Sports and finishing up an article on who they should target at the trade deadline. And yeah, look out for that.
Awesome stuff, man. Here's our schedule. Here it is. At Denver, at Portland, at Golden State, Utah, Brooklyn, Dallas, Golden State. So they're not playing any more cupcake teams, you know.
Yeah. And looking a little deeper on that, I'm kind of excited for the Cleveland Cavs, Miami Heat, New York Knicks, Cleveland Cavs, Milwaukee Bucks, Boston Celtics run as well.
That's wow. That's a good one too. All right. Thank you, everyone, guys, for watching. A little bit of Down in the Dumps episode for sure. Hopefully, my final thought is hopefully Embiid will be ready to go on Saturday. That's the take here tonight, that the knee is okay. And, guys, we'll be back on Saturday. One more time, give Sean a follow on X at Sean_Bernard1. He is Tiago at TiagoPHL. I am Dibs. For Sean, for Tiago, for myself, stay awesome, everyone.